We're counting down the 10 most dangerous small planes ever sold. Machines that earned their reputation not just through accident statistics, but by punishing even minor mistakes in ways most pilots never see coming. From elusive handling quirks and unforgiving landing traits to hidden engineering pitfalls, each aircraft on this list has left its mark in logbooks and instructor warnings across generations. Some designs lured in new owners with promises of performance, only to reveal flight characteristics that demanded razor-sharp discipline. Others sparked controversy over catastrophic failures or quietly racked up incidents that forced the Federal Aviation Administration and insurers to take notice. Why did these models stand out, and what lessons did pilots learn, sometimes the hard way? Let's explore the countdown, starting with number 10. Number 10 on the list is a machine both rare and fiercely respected, the Meyers 200D. Built in small numbers during the 1960s, this high-performance single draws admiration for its speed and robust construction, yet it has earned a reputation among pilots for demanding absolute precision, especially when flying slow. The 200D's elevator feels heavy in the hand, masking the subtle cues most pilots rely on to sense an approaching stall. Instead of a gentle warning, the stall comes abruptly, a sharp brake that can whip the nose down and, in the wrong hands, snap the airplane into a roll. Owner anecdotes and flight test notes describe the need for disciplined technique. Maintain exact airspeed, keep the ball centered, and never let attention drift in the pattern. The accident record is small, but when mishandled, the consequences are severe. Snap roll losses and hard arrivals that punish even minor lapses. For those who master its quirks, the Meyers 200D delivers thousands of safe hours. But it is a lesson in respect. Some aircraft do not forgive sloppy flying, no matter how strong their airframes or how loyal their fans. The Piper J3 Cub is a legend in American aviation, but its reputation comes with a warning. Written in nearly every instructor's logbook. Respect the tailwheel or the runway will teach you a lesson you won't forget. The Cub's simple landing gear, 2 wheels up front and a tiny tail wheel behind, turns every crosswind landing into a balancing act. As speed drops after touchdown, the center of gravity sits behind the main wheels, making the airplane want to pivot around them. Even a gentle breeze or a moment's distraction can send the Cub veering sideways, spinning harmlessly in the grass, or worse, off the runway. This is the classic ground loop, a rite of passage for generations of new pilots. FAA and AO. PA data show ground loop incidents in tailwheel trainers like the Cub remain stubbornly high, outnumbering most other accident types for these planes. Yet fatality rates are remarkably low, proof that the Cub's danger lies not in its design, but in demanding constant rudder discipline. Instructors often say, you ground loop once, you never forget. For those who master it, the Cub becomes a forgiving teacher. For those who do not, the runway is always ready for another lesson. Rockwell Commander 112 and 114 series promised comfort and style, but pilots stepping up from lighter trainers quickly discovered a different challenge: muscle. The Commander's control yoke feels heavier in the hand than most of its peers, especially on approach and during landing. It demands deliberate, sometimes forceful input to keep the airplane precisely on target. In gusty crosswinds, the rudder pedals resist easy movement, and the flare requires a confident, steady pull. There is little room for hesitation or finesse. Inside the cockpit, the layout is traditional but tight. Early models crowd throttle, gear, and flap levers together near the pilot's right knee. For some pilots, especially those of smaller stature, this creates an awkward reach at the busiest moment of the flight. The result is landing mishaps in the Commander fleet often cluster around the transition phase. Gear collapses after hard touchdowns, swerves on rollout, and the occasional runway overrun happens when a firm arrival turns into a struggle to stop. NTSB reports rarely cite design faults outright. Instructor surveys point to a pattern. Pilots unprepared for the Commander's physical demands make mistakes when workload peaks. Over time, those who adapt to its feel and respect its landing discipline find the airplane predictable and safe. But for newcomers, the Commander's landing phase becomes a gauntlet, a lesson in how ergonomics and control forces can raise the stakes when seconds matter most. Early Mooney M20s, especially the A through C models, built their reputation on speed and efficiency, but they also carried a handling edge that caught many pilots off guard. With a center of gravity envelope just 5 inches wide, less than half the range of most 4-seat singles, even a small loading mistake could shift the airplane's balance from stable to unpredictable. Add to that a wing loading of 15.2 pounds per square foot, higher than a Cessna 172 or a Cherokee, and the M20 demanded precision on every approach. Landing these Moonies was not just about touching down at the right speed. Too much weight in the back seat or in the baggage compartment, and the elevator could feel mushy, especially when flaring for touchdown or during a go-around. NTSB accident reports from the 1960s and the 1970s show a clear pattern. Aircraft loaded aft of the safe limit struggled to rotate for landing, sometimes overrunning the runway or stalling at low altitude. Transition instructors warn that a nose-heavy M20, by contrast, can run out of elevator authority altogether, refusing to lift off or to flare, especially with a heavy pilot up front and full fuel. The lesson written in Mooney logbooks is simple. This is a machine that amplifies small mistakes. Proper loading and respect for the numbers are non-negotiable. For those who master its quirks, the early M20 rewards with speed and efficiency. For those who do not, the margin for error is razor thin, and the consequences are recorded in NTSB files and instructor war stories alike. Cessna's 337 Skymaster promised a revolution in safety. Its push-pull twin-engine layout had one engine up front pulling and one at the rear pushing, so pilots were told they would not fear the sudden yaw or roll of a typical twin after an engine failure. Both engines sit along the centerline, so losing one should not spin the airplane. But the Skymaster's real story runs deeper, in the way systems complexity can turn a clever idea into a maintenance and training minefield. The rear engine, buried in the airflow behind the fuselage, runs hotter than the front. Mechanics and NTSB files both describe cooling baffles that crack, hoses that slip, and confusing maintenance bulletins that left some owners guessing. When that rear engine quits, cockpit cues can be subtle: a slight drop in RPM, a faint change in vibration, easy to miss under stress. Too many pilots, flying solo, misdiagnose the failure or fail to feather the right prop. The result is a sudden loss of thrust, a nose-high attitude, and a rapid decay of airspeed. In multiple documented accidents, confusion led to loss of control, not because the aerodynamics were inherently flawed, but because the emergency demanded a different response than any other twin. Airworthiness directives eventually targeted cooling and inspection schedules, but the lesson stuck. Innovation can introduce hazards as quickly as it solves them. The Skymaster's danger is not in its basic aerodynamics, it is in the fine print, maintenance discipline, specialized training, and the need to treat every warning light as a call to action. For pilots who respected its quirks, the Skymaster delivered on its promise. For the rest, the cost was written in NTSB reports and insurance claims. Cessna's 177 Cardinal arrived in 1968 with bold promises: a sleeker look, faster cruise, and a laminar flow wing that set it apart from the familiar 172. But in the hands of pilots used to the gentler stall of earlier Cessnas, the Cardinal's new wing revealed an ugly surprise. Instead of a slow, predictable mush, the stall broke sharply, almost like falling off a ledge. Instructors reported that the airplane could drop a wing with little warning, especially in a crosswind or during low-power approaches. Early FAA bulletins flagged the issue, urging instructors to retrain on the Cardinal's stall behavior. The numbers told the story. Stall-related accidents in the first few years ran 30 to 40% higher than the 172 fleet, despite similar missions and pilot backgrounds. Flight test reports from the era called out the stabilator too, an all-moving tail that made pitch control more sensitive, especially near the edge of the envelope. Cessna responded with aerodynamic fixes, slots, strakes, and subtle tweaks that softened the stall and restored some margin. Over time, as instructors adapted and the fleet matured, accident rates settled down. But the lesson stuck. The Cardinal's quest for speed and style costed a chunk of stall warning, reminding pilots that every aerodynamic breakthrough comes with a trade-off. Respect the edge, or the airplane will teach you where it is. The Cessna 210. Centurion, especially the early models without wing struts, offered speed and load-carrying power that made it a favorite among serious pilots. But beneath the smooth skin, a silent threat grew with every flight hour. Hidden cracks formed inside the main wing spar. For years, mechanics inspecting aging Cessna 210s started finding fine lines in the metal, barely visible but deadly. By 2019, field reports were piling up, and an A&P mechanic refused to sign off a routine annual until the owner agreed to a deeper eddy current inspection. What they found forced the hand of the FAA. In early 2020, Airworthiness Directive No. 2-02000316 grounded hundreds of Cessna 210s overnight, mandating immediate, costly inspections for spar cracks. Some owners discovered repairs would cost more than the airplane's value. The cracks did not care about pilot skill or experience. They cared only about metal fatigue, corrosion, and time. This was not a handling quirk or a training gap. It was a danger that crept in quietly, waiting for a hard landing or a day of rough air to finish the job. The Centurion's lesson is clear. Even the best pilots cannot outfly aging metal. Maintenance vigilance is not just a checklist item, it is the only thing standing between a safe flight and catastrophic failure. In the logbooks of the 210 fleet, it is a warning written not in ink, but in the scars of aluminum. Piper's PA-32R Saratoga stands out not for a single mechanical flaw, but for a pattern that has haunted general aviation, night flights, a single pilot, and the sudden loss of visual cues. Among high-performance singles, the Saratoga's accident record draws a sharp line between daylight confidence and what happens after sunset. The most publicized example came in July 1999, when John F. Kennedy Jr., flying a Saratoga registered as N9253N, vanished off the coast of Massachusetts. The NTSB traced the cause to spatial disorientation, a condition where the pilot's senses misfire in darkness, making it nearly impossible to tell up from down without trusting the instruments. Radar tracks and ATC transcripts revealed a descent into featureless black, a scenario known as the black hole effect. There was nothing wrong with the airplane, the engine, or the weather that could not be handled by an instrument-rated pilot. But the workload at night, especially for those flying VFR into marginal conditions, is unforgiving. Accident clusters in the Saratoga fleet echo this pattern. Experienced pilots, often flying alone, lose orientation at night and spiral out of control. NTSB data shows a spike in night. VFR accidents with spatial disorientation cited again and again. The Saratoga's complexity, retractable gear, a constant speed prop, and a panel crowded with systems adds to the challenge, especially when stress rises. Yet the real hazard is not in the design alone. It is in the gap between what pilots think they can handle and what darkness demands. Instructors warn, confidence can fade faster than the horizon, and the sky at night is less forgiving of shortcuts. The Saratoga's lesson is written in logbooks and accident reports alike, a reminder that even the best machines require respect for human limits, especially when the lights go out. The Piper PA-38 Tomahawk entered the market in 1978 with one goal: to create a modern trainer that would teach real-world stall and spin recovery. Instead, it became a cautionary tale for the entire flight training industry. Unlike the docile Cessna 150 or the Cherokee, the Tomahawk's laminar flow wing and high T-tail produced a stall that arrived with little warning, and a spin that could become stubborn or even unrecoverable unless handled with textbook precision. Early NTSB data made the risk impossible to ignore. Within its first years of service, the Tomahawk's spin accident rate ran nearly 40% higher than its trainer peers. Student pilots, often flying solo or with minimal experience, found themselves in spins that demanded perfect recovery technique. The T-tail, perched above the wing's turbulent wake, could lose elevator authority just when it was needed most. That loss could blank out the control feel and remove the usual buffet cues that signal an impending stall. Flight instructors adapted quickly. Many rewrote their syllabi to include aggressive stall recognition drills, and they enforced stricter standards for spin entry and recovery. Some went further, creating custom checklists and even avoiding full spins with new students until those students demonstrated flawless basic handling. Oral histories from career flight instructors reveal a pattern. The Tomahawk was not dangerous in the hands of a well-briefed, disciplined pilot, but inexperience or a moment of hesitation could tip the balance from lesson to accident. As training culture caught up and the syllabus changed, accident rates improved, but the Tomahawk's reputation stuck. Its story is a reminder that the line between trainer and trap is thin, and that design and discipline must evolve together, especially when the least experienced pilots are the ones most at risk. The Beechcraft V-tail Bonanza stands alone in aviation lore, a machine with a silhouette as distinctive as its reputation. Introduced in 1947, the Model 35's sharp V-tail promised speed and style for a new class of private owners. But beneath the polished image, a more complicated story unfolded, one that would earn the Bonanza a nickname whispered in hangars and insurance offices across America: the Doctor Killer. The V-tail's secret lay in its ruddervator, a control surface that combined the functions of both rudder and elevator. In theory, this design saved weight and reduced drag. In practice, it created a tangle of load paths that engineers of the era struggled to model. When a pilot made a sudden pitch or yaw input, especially in turbulence or during an abrupt recovery, the forces did not travel cleanly through the tail. Instead, they twisted and flexed the spars, concentrating stress at the junctions. Over time, these hidden loads could fatigue the metal, setting the stage for catastrophic failure. NTSB records from the late 1940s through the 1980s reveal a pattern. Clusters of mid-air breakups often followed a stall spin entry or aggressive maneuvering. The FAA issued a series of airworthiness directives, each one mandating new inspections or reinforcements for the tail. But the fixes lagged behind the accident curve. Insurance companies, tracking claims and payouts, doubled premiums for V-tail owners. Actuarial memos from the 1960s and 70s flagged the Bonanza's stall spin accident rate as nearly twice that of its straight-tail sibling. The numbers told a harsh truth. When a V-tail failed, it often did so in flight, with consequences that left no room for recovery. Yet the Bonanza's story is more than a tale of metal fatigue. Many of its owners were newly licensed, affluent professionals, doctors, lawyers, and business leaders, attracted by the airplane's speed and prestige. Too often, they underestimated the need for recurrent training or ignored the warning signs of structural fatigue. Instructor lore is filled with cautionary stories of pilots who skipped annual inspections, flew into storms, or pushed the envelope just a little too far. The airplane demanded discipline. Those who gave it anything less risked everything. By the 1980s, the FAA had mandated multiple tail reinforcements. Beechcraft ended V-tail production in 1982, and it offered expensive conversions to a straight-tail design. But the legend persists. The V-tail Bonanza is a case study in the interplay between daring engineering, market culture, and the unforgiving logic of physics. Its lesson is written in thousands of logbooks and too many accident reports. Respect the limits of design, of maintenance, of skill, because in the wrong hands, even the most beautiful machine can turn deadly. Across all 10 aircraft, one pattern stands out. Danger is not just built into machines, it is shaped by design, training, and the culture around them. These planes prove that even certified and popular models can harbor unforgiving traits. In aviation, safety demands respect for every hidden flaw. The sky does not punish ignorance, it exposes it. Fly with knowledge, and you tip the odds back in your favor. Which story surprised you most? Share your thoughts below.